stories from Through the Eyes of Jesus about a young man called Marcus. Today I'd like to read one of the stories from Through the Eyes of Jesus about a young man called Marcus, and it's one of my many favourites. The whole book's my favourite, but I'd like to share this little bit with you. And this is Jesus speaking. We walked on and began to sing together the praises of God. The love that filled the air placed a blanket of joy around my followers. And as it did, each one of them was filled with a deeper joy. After some time, we saw a man beside the road who was preparing to settle for the night in a place that many travellers used before. He was a very large and powerfully built man with a face that would frighten many. Peter came to me as I said out loud, "We'll rest here for tonight." "Lord," said Peter, as he looked in the man's direction, "is that wise?" "My friend, this is a good place to rest," I replied assuredly, as James, who was beside me, said nervously, "But he doesn't look very welcoming, does he?" "Never judge, or you may find you are often wrong," I said as I smiled back at him. "Maybe it would be safer to go a little further. We might find a more comfortable place than this," said Judas, with his hand on his pouch, concerned only that it may be taken from him by this giant of a man. "Trust me," I said, as I walked towards the stranger, who as soon as he saw me stood up straight to show his immense size. I went to him and smiled as I asked, "Would you mind if we joined you for the night?" "Not at all," he bellowed in reply, with a big grin on his face. "I would enjoy the company." My followers gathered around and we introduced ourselves to him one at a time. "I am Marcus," he said with an accent. "Are you a Roman?" asked young James, still showing a little fear on his face. "No, not a Roman. I'm a Jew. But as a child I was taken to Rome and adopted by a family who called me Marcus," replied the big man. "I've returned to Israel to find my family," he stated. We all began to put our belongings in the various places we had selected to sleep. As we did, I heard James saying to John, "We'll have to be careful tonight." Marcus was busy building a large fire, and when he lit it, the heat was so intense. "Such a big fire," said Peter to Marcus. "We will not freeze here tonight." "I like a big fire. It makes me happy to look at it and see the wood burning, making many different shapes. And I like to feel the heat on my skin," replied the big man in his deep voice. "Oh," said Peter, uncertain. "I look at the fire at night and it brings me peace. As I watch the flames dancing in the air, as I see the sparks floating in the air, it reminds me of little insects flying, and it reminds me how beautiful is this world we live in," said Marcus to an amazed group of my followers who were listening to him now. "Yes, it is a beautiful world, answered Peter, waiting to hear more. "This world," said Marcus, "and I've seen much of it, is a wonder to behold. And when I wake in the morning and see the sky with its sunrise and then hear the birds singing, I think the creator of all this must truly love us to give us such a gift. When I see the splendour of a flower and smell its beautiful fragrance, I think what a heart of love must have created this. As I look at the rivers and streams teeming with life, I think how everything we need to live is given to us and how whoever gave it to us is so generous and kind. Why, even in the insects busying themselves each day, I see the way that all the world is, created as a web of love that exists together. Then I see in each person a true masterpiece of creation, a man or a woman, each a wonder to behold. No sculpture can match the artistry of this creation. When a person smiles with joy, I see on his face once again the love the Creator offers us. In each word a person speaks, the sound fills my heart, and I can spend hours just listening to the harmony of the words. Then when I see a person who is in love, I see what we were created to be. How I wish everyone could be like that always. Yes, creation is a miracle to behold, and I enjoy every moment of it that I can. Peter and the others were amazed that from a man who looked like this, such words could come. Well said, my friend, I said, as I placed my hand on his large shoulder. You're not only big in stature, but you have a big heart as well. Does that surprise you? Asked Marcus. No, my friend, it does not, I replied, as I looked at my followers, most of whom now had guilty looks on their faces. We all sat down around the fire, as Marcus continued. Many are surprised, you know. Bartholomew spoke up. Lord, would it be all right if I prepared the food for tonight, or are we still fasting? Of course, my friend, if no one else objects, we'll finish our fast now so we can enjoy a meal, I answered, while all my followers were happy to agree, as it had been more than a day since we had eaten. James offered to help Bartholomew. Will you share our food? Asked Peter of Marcus. Have you got enough? Was his reply. Today we were given more than we need. Look, said Peter, as he opened one of the bags with food in it, and then pointed to the other bags. I don't know how I can repay you, for I have no money, said an embarrassed Marcus. Your company is enough, I said with a smile. Tell us more of yourself. While the food is being prepared, I suggested gently to him. There's not much to tell, really. As a young child, I was sold to be a slave. But the people who brought me to Rome called me their son. They took me from the slave master and dressed me in fine clothes, gave me a comfortable bed to sleep in, and offered me their love. What of your real parents? Asked Andrew. Oh, they died. We were travelling in a caravan and they both became sick. Within a short time, they were both gone. The people in the caravan said they would sell me to pay my parents' debts, explained the sad Marcus. I remember the warmth of my mother. I'll never forget that. Yes, so do I, said Judas Iscariot with a smile on his face. Well, the family in Rome was good to me, and I truly loved them. They were old and never had children, and to them I was their son. Life was good. My father, the Roman, taught me many things, and the most important thing he always said was to love life and never to hurt another. He was a gentleman and never said a bad word against anyone. I so enjoyed being with them. My mother smothered me with affection, always smiling, always loving, and always trying to please me. I loved her as a mother, he said with a tear in his eye. Then she died of old age, and it broke my father. His mind went, and he would sit all day and say nothing. He never moved from his chair, and he hardly ate anything. There was nothing I could do. He did not even recognise me. Then one morning I awoke to find him dead in his chair. I think he died of a broken heart. It was after this all my troubles started. My Roman father's brother claimed the house and everything else they had owned. He told me I was not welcome, that I was a Jew, not a Roman, and that I was not part of his family. I decided I should leave and return to Israel to find my true family, if there were any left living. Just as I was about to go, soldiers came to the house and arrested me, saying my uncle had claimed I'd stole from him, which I did not. They dragged me before a prefect, who said that with a body like mine, I'd make a fine gladiator. I told him I would not hurt anyone, as it's wrong to do so. He laughed and ordered me to the gladiator school. It was terrible there. They beat me because I would not fight. They prodded me with swords and spears, he said, as he opened his tunic to show so many scars, some which were quite deep and would have killed many a man. Even when they put me against others, I would not fight. And that's how I got some of these. Eventually they said I was going to the arena and if I did not fight there, I would be killed. It would be kill or be killed. I knew I could not kill another, and that I would die the next day. That night I remembered my true mother and father talking about the God of Israel. I couldn't get it from my mind. Over and over I remembered their stories. Eventually, in despair over what lay ahead, I called out, "If there is a God of Israel, I am yours. And I promise I will not hurt another, even if it costs my life. If you are there, God, help me and give me the strength to keep my promise." That night, I could not sleep. And when morning came, I was about to leave for my final day. A centurion came with some soldiers and asked for me. He came to me and said, "You're free. Your uncle withdrew his charges and paid for your release. He's outside waiting for you." The soldiers escorted me back to my uncle, who was waiting with an impatient look on his face when he said, "I don't know why I'm doing this. I should let you die. I suppose it's because my brother loved you. You are to leave Rome and never come back and just be grateful you have your life." He nodded to the soldiers and they took me to the outskirts of Rome and left me there. After that, I made my way back to Israel, hoping to find some family. That morning I came to believe there is a God of Israel and that he cares for me. Marcus finished his words and stared into the fire. There was silence until I spoke. The God of Israel cares for all people, and when he's asked of in love and from a true heart, he always answers. Yes, he saved my life, and now I enjoy each moment that I have. I treasure everything in this world and try to appreciate the Creator's love in all things. I know now that any moment may be my last, and therefore I want to thank God for every second by seeing his love in all things, said Marcus. Can I look at your scars again? Asked young James, intrigued with the marks on the man's body. Of course, was the reply. The big man opened his tunic again to expose his injuries. They must have hurt a lot, said James. They did, answered Marcus. Didn't you ever feel angry and want to fight back? Questioned Peter. No, my pain only increased my determination not to hurt another. Feeling the pain, I knew I did not want to be the cause of this pain to anyone else. The suffering showed me this is what I would inflict upon another if I fought, and at times I thought I could stand no more. I saw another in my place suffering as I did. I knew that was not what I wanted for anyone, was the gentle and honest reply. I looked at this big man and smiled with joy at the love which resided inside of him. A man who looked so threatening from without, was as gentle as a lamb within. As Bartholomew and James passed the food to each of us, I said, "Let's pray." Marcus looked at me a little embarrassed and said, "I don't know how to pray." "You pray already in the way you see the love of God in all things and thank God for them," I replied. "Oh," said Marcus, uncertain. "As we pray, just close your eyes and think of how much you have to thank God for," suggested young James. Then, as the big man closed his eyes, looking like an innocent child, I led my followers in prayers of thanks to my Father. When we finished and were about to eat, Marcus said, "I enjoyed that. It was very peaceful." "That is how prayer is supposed to be," I said, as I began to eat some of the hot fish I had before me. Over the meal, the conversation was full of questions to our new friend about Rome and other places he had visited in his travels. Then, as darkness surrounded us, we all lay back into the arms of sleep. I awoke early in the morning, just as the sun was beginning to rise, and its golden light could be seen breaking on the horizon. There, standing looking at the sky, was Marcus, so I went and stood beside him. "It's a new masterpiece each morning," he stated, with a look of admiration on his face. "Yes, it is, isn't it?" I answered, as I looked and saw the sun rising higher in the distance. "The greatest artist of all has created this," he said. "I wish I knew more about God." You know more than most already, I explained in truth. My parents talked of God a lot, I remember that, but I can't remember much of what they said. It was so long ago, he said sadly. My friend, you know God in a way that many do not. You appreciate his love in all creation. You see the miracles of his love in each person. You thank God for all he's given you. You live your life wishing not to hurt others, even prepared to sacrifice your own life rather than hurt another. You believe in God, even though you do not know much about him or have never been taught about him. And this belief comes from your pure heart. You truly are a son of God, I said lovingly to him. Is it possible for me to learn more about God, he asked. Yes, I said, as I put my hand on his shoulders and looked into his very soul. His face came alive with the knowledge that touched his soul, and tears ran from his eyes as he looked at me saying, my God. We stayed this way for a few minutes, then I said, it's time to meet your family again. He let out a loud sigh and fell into my arms as the life slipped from him. Peter, who had woken up and had been watching for a little while, ran forward and grabbed Marcus. Is he dead, Lord? He asked. Yes, my friend, he is, I replied, smiling at Peter. But how? Wondered Peter. One of the wounds had touched his heart, and it was only a matter of time until he died, I said gently. So he did give his life rather than kill another, said Peter, as this fact just dawned on him. Yes, he did. He lived and died as he said he did. He lived with a kind heart, and died with a heart sacrificing for others, I said, as I now helped Peter lay Marcus on the ground. I looked at the gentle giant before me and said, he lived as all men should live. Soon my followers were there, and young James, who had grown very fond of Marcus, was crying and crying as he asked of me, can't you heal him, Lord? I put my hand on James's head and as he knelt beside the body. Look at his face, see how happy he is. He has no need of healing, I said. As James looked and nodded in agreement, he does look happy, Lord. Soon we'd buried the body, and Andrew said out loud, as we stood around the grave, it's a pity he never found his home. He's on his way home now, I said, as I put a flower that I picked from the nearby field on top of the grave. God bless you all, and I hope I read that well for you.